we have no illusions about what a 2-day workshop or brief weekly group can do to people. Many people will be enthusiastic, some will be bored, and others will be unchanged. Hopefully, you're one of the people who feels enthusiastic and can see things you want to change. But a smart thing to do, if you've gained anything from this program, is to revisit this book in the future. An important thing to keep in mind is what we discussed in the last section, habits and ruts. People seek out experiences they believe will fundamentally change them for the better. That's why we go to the movies, take vacations, read books, attend religious and social meetings, and go to workshops. We search for new things and new experiences that help bring out the deepest and most important part of ourselves. We crave for more and better experiences and more satisfying relationships. But the tendency is for such changes to fade, and we usually return to the way we were. The power of the brain and the habitual behaviors and beliefs we have formed exert an influence that won't fade on its own. I have read about people attending specific workshops and reporting immediately that they were changed forever. Yet this enthusiasm usually wanes and the people typically return to the way they were. In essence, when you return to your reality, you will probably return as basically the same person. If the reality and background of your life circumstances doesn't change and you're basically the same person, what can you expect when you return to your day-to-day life? I see a fundamental problem in what workshops propose to do. A workshop cannot change your life. Only you can do that. Of course, sometimes outside things happen that change us forever. Deaths, accidents, and disasters. Such things happen to everyone sooner or later. Knowing these things will come should not deter you from doing what you can and should do now. So this takes us to a simple choice point. First, if your life circumstances are not the right place for you as an individual, there are 3 things you can do. 1, you can change that reality. 2, you can move to another one. Or 3, return to it. If you return to it, you may well remain exactly as you were when you came into this program, but you can change how you respond to that reality. How you act, the things you do, does have an effect on those around you. You can make sense of your life from a higher level of meaning, but it's completely up to you to figure that out. A hint here is in the earlier statement that our lives sort of superficially float on a much deeper ocean of meaning. Most workshops do not focus on the idea that when you change yourself, you're actually changing your circumstances, the background in which you live. A few people may actually come to the conclusion that they need to do something else, to simply leave their circumstances and go elsewhere. We have had counselors decide during training that they needed to get out of that field. For all of them, it was probably a good decision. If you have such impulses, tread carefully and slowly. Be sure you discover your true passion first. Every day of your life, you have the freedom to create a new path that can lead you to your underlying purpose and happiness. How you react to others, the things you do as you live each day, and the influence of your actions on others are completely under your control. You have the freedom to change and become whatever you want. You might believe that fate or circumstances are out of your control. You might feel trapped or stuck, but these beliefs are true only if you choose it to be so. We've nearly completed our group experience, but there are a few more really important things that need to be mentioned. For decades, there have been countless self-help books, workshops, and gurus promoting the secrets of success. Many of these are excellent, but we have no recommendations or programs will tell you to avoid. The aim of some of these relate to attaining wealth or the idea that the world can provide abundance for all who seek it. Maybe so, but the reality of the world is pretty simple. People aren't equal in the sense of physical characteristics, genetic endowment, basic ability, place of birth, parents, or basic opportunity. Is that fair? I can't answer that for certain, but it is the way it is. It's reality. I see justice as a key issue in this, but in truth, I can't really define justice either. I've worked in criminal justice for some time, and I've struggled with the core idea of justice. I've seen inmates do a 5-year prison term for burglarizing hundreds of times. Not one of them repaid the individuals they stole from, but their debt to society was paid. Is it justice? Maybe, maybe not, but it conformed to the law. I've also seen people whose lives were literally destroyed by crime in one way or another. The offender paid a price, but the lives of the victims were destroyed nonetheless. Perhaps the best thing I've ever heard regarding how we should live our lives has been quoted by countless people. The idea directly confronts how we should live our lives in what often seems to be an unjust world. We have to live our lives in an ethical and moral way in a seemingly unjust world. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's the most important secret I know. Of course, there are those who challenge the idea, and that's okay. There are some people who assert that most successful people became successful by crawling over others. Is that true? In a moment, we'll look at some revealing research on people who are rich, but the idea that living a just life in an unjust world is so important that it bears a bit more discussion. And I can think of no better example of how important this idea is than jobs in government. For the impact they have on the world, teachers are typically overlooked in importance, are underpaid, and are often unappreciated. In America, the richest country in the world, we also tend to strictly limit the resources teachers have at their disposal. Yet they directly impact our children in just about every way possible. I've spoken to many dedicated teachers who feel grossly underpaid for what they do, yet they retain the highest standards for themselves because they know it's important that the job be done as well as possible. What teachers are typically paid doesn't seem fair, but they still need to do the job of teaching and do it to the best of their ability. But teachers are only the tip of the government job iceberg. For most of us, the typical contacts we have with government are in obtaining licenses and paying taxes. The interactions the public has with government clerks and office personnel usually determine how the government agency is perceived by the public. Precisely how the lowest level governmental personnel conduct themselves has a huge impact on whether the public sees them as serving the public or taking advantage of it. Government employees working with children, troubled families, and in social services of all types are a front line that has to maintain good attitudes despite often being perceived as threats or sometimes even enemies. It can be a difficult thing to do, but maintaining the highest standards of personal conduct is of the utmost importance. While maintaining a good attitude with public service as a guiding principle is important at all levels of government, there is one obvious example of the concept of living a just life in an unjust world. Today, there are over 8 million individuals in America who are in prisons, jails, or under some sort of criminal justice supervision. The people who work with offenders are in a rather unique situation. If you are one of these people, you should grasp it immediately. There's usually an us versus them mentality in criminal justice, and I won't tell you that this is necessarily wrong. The long-running concept in criminal justice, to serve and protect, means that a portion of society has to be identified and held accountable and even isolated to protect others. Within institutions such as prisons and jails, it is common knowledge that offenders are often dangerous, are often plotting ways to violate rules and even escape, and constantly trying to create conflict. There is really little justice in how things are done or in how people act and react to things. The key moral imperative in this situation was that I had to behave in the most moral and just way I could, even when the people I interacted with were not just, nor were they appreciative of justice. I can think of no place on earth where it's more important to work and exemplify the idea of living a just life in an unjust world than in prisons and jails. The staff in such institutions should make every effort to see that they conduct themselves in ways that serve as examples for the people they keep. Virtually all institutions create policies and procedures to do this, and the people who work in such places should understand their deeper role. In 1996, a best-selling research book titled The Millionaire Next Door was published by Thomas Stanley. It was followed up in Stanley's 2001 book, The Millionaire Mind. Stanley and his research associates found that 4.9% of American families had a net worth of over $1 million. There are lots of Americans who appear to be wealthy because of what they spend, but their debts approach or surpass what they actually have. These people are not yet successful by Stanley's definition, and he was interested in people who had actually accumulated real wealth. He obtained detailed questionnaires from 733 multimillionaires with an average net worth of $9.2 million. Only 2% of them had inherited any property, and an astonishing 61% had never inherited anything at all. Their road to wealth is partly seen in where they live and what they buy. The vast majority never bought cars costing over $40,000. They almost never bought a new home. In fact, only 10% live in homes that are less than 10 years old. A third of them started their own businesses, with the bulk of the remainder professionals in various fields. Education was definitely important, but many of these people showed fairly average grades. Few of them live extravagant lifestyles, and they built their wealth by constantly reducing debt and avoiding what most people see as conspicuous spending on new homes, glamorous cars, or expensive vacations. But to me, the most important things revealed in Stanley's analysis were in his questions regarding personal values and what the millionaires saw as the real success factors. The most important and most cited factor identified in Stanley's research on how one becomes wealthy was a personal value. It was being honest with all people. Next was getting along with people. Next was being disciplined. The study, of course, identified a lot of other things. For example, loving my business or career was important, but it still did not reach the importance of honesty or getting along with others. The importance of fundamental honesty in our day-to-day lives cannot be overestimated in importance, nor can having the right attitude. There's a lot that can be learned in the 4 factors that we cited here. What you choose to do with it is up to you. Before we end this program, we'll go through a list of 20 key points, most of which have been discussed here in one way or the other. These points are more a philosophy of life than perhaps absolute truths. You're free to disagree with any of them, but it's necessary that I list them. 1. Happiness comes from doing the right things for you as an individual in the right ways. 2. The right things for you are, to a great extent, determined by abilities, interests, and potentials you were born with. Precisely what the right way means is obvious to normal people. A big hint is found in the definition of conscience, knowing the difference between right and wrong and choosing to do what's right. Honesty and attitude are involved with this. 3. Many of the goals that you have set for yourself are the result of early life interactions with others and may not relate to your real purpose. 4. Constant stress and anxiety are clues that you're not moving in the right direction in life. 5. A sense of serenity and calmness as you move through your daily life tells you the direction you are taking is probably appropriate. Fundamental honesty in getting along with others produce serenity and calmness. 6. Becoming aware of yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you influence others is important. 7. Forgive yourself for your failings, but have the strength and courage to become the best you can be. 8. Seek out your purpose. It's why you are here. 9. Everyone has a unique way of learning and unfolding their purpose. There are some consistent elements in people, but the uniqueness of each individual has to be recognized. 10. Your purpose can show itself in small but significant signs. Those who come to recognize and act on these signs come to see that they are following their true heart. As this path is followed, more and more signs appear. 11. The greatest hindrance to perceiving and acting on these signs are negative thinking and fear. Fear of losing what you have is a powerful issue everyone has to contend with, and it's not easy. 12. Looking for food, water, and shelter never ends. This means we're always seeking security. Decisions in such matters seldom lead to exactly where the person thought it would. 13. Coming to appreciate each moment in time is crucial to happiness. Living in the now is the simplest of truths. Dwelling on the past or living in regret impedes the experience of the present. 14. Our brain is wired in such a way that we are easily seduced. The most consistent seducers are beauty, power and influence, adulation, money, the accumulation of things, and security. Seduction keeps a person from their true path. 15. You can't really win in life. You simply live. How you live is up to you. 16. When you feel trapped and see no way out, all that's left is to become completely honest. This means more than it appears to mean. 17. You always live in a groove, a rut, no matter what you do. So choose your ruts carefully. There is a rut to happiness. Ruts are not always bad. 18. To find your path, you eventually have to stop plotting and analyzing and simply follow your passion. Do what you love to do. 19. You have already had many opportunities to find your true path in life. You will have more opportunities. 20. Big money propositions usually are a sellout to our genuine path. They can sound rational and take advantage of skeptical thinking about the idea of having a true purpose. They are seductive. In a 1995 article titled, "What Are Your Principles?", Dr. Laura Little wrote that personal principles are generally thought of as an idealized code of conduct to which you hold yourself accountable. And in the article on principles, it is assumed that most people in organizations have a better and more moral set of principles. And that is the assumption we have to make here. One's principles often begin with an overall statement. For example, my principles are based on the idea that I should treat others in the way I want to be treated. Taking a clue from several governmental agencies, she quoted from a state's mission statement. We believe in the worth of the individual, and our word is our bond. But what is important here is that you honestly try to identify what you hold as an ideal. What is your core set of principles?